Howdy, guys, and welcome to Survivor Season 42 and a recap of Episode 6. And welcome to Cliff Notes from a long way away from Fiji. But I've talked before about how much action we see in a typical 1 hour episode this season. Well, we had 2 hours this evening. We had twice as much going on. So with that being said, let's get right into what happened during tonight's episode. First of all, a little bit of a refresher. Just remember, last week we had a tribal council, and from the Green Vate tribe, we had Daniel go home. I was a little disappointed to see him go home. I was kind of curious to see how he was going to play. He just all the way back from the Jenny tribal council, I think that Daniel just kind of lost some of his footing. He paid the price. He let Hai get the upper hand in terms of arguing and controlling that tribe, and it cost him. He paid the price. So Daniel's gone, but let's talk about who is still on the island and what's going on, because as we get into tonight's episode, the first thing we see is Vati coming back from tribal council. I like seeing this. I guess they've done this for quite a while, but I always like to see the repercussions right after tribal council. I assume it's right after tribal council, same night. We see them coming back, and sure enough, we've got little hard feelings going on, because if you remember, Daniel went home, but in a bit of a surprise move, Chanel had voted to send Mike out the door, and Mike had voted to send Chanel out the door. So both of them kind of a little less trusting of each other, as I would be as well. So let's see what happens with that. Well, now, first of all, we've got Chanel explaining why she voted for Mike, and she says, "Oh, look, it's in case I thought maybe you and Daniel were trying to work something up, or in case Daniel played an idol. I just needed to have another eye out and all of that." And here's the thing: it all makes perfect sense to me. I didn't really understand last week why she cast that vote, but I know in Big Brother, paranoia runs rampant. Same thing with Survivor. You never know who's telling you the truth, who's not. Mike acts a little offended. Mike's saying, "What, you thought I was going to fall for Daniel's pitches and all that?" Well, yeah, of course. You always have to worry about that. So we've got Chanel explaining why she did that. Mike tells her, says, "Look, we got to stay strong. We're a good tribe. It's let bygones be bygones. Not the end of the world." That's what he tells Chanel and everyone else in the tribe. The confessional that he gives to us indicates his true feelings. And his true feelings are that, yeah, you know what, if Hai and Lydia need help, I'm going to support them any way I can. Chanel, I think he says something like, "I'm just going to step out of the way if there's a bullet coming towards her." Pretty rough, but I get it. I do. Yeah, forgive but don't forget kind of situation. And at least he doesn't tell her that. He needs to be portraying a strong front, but he definitely is not going to forget what Chanel did to him. So we do have that. Now, it's interesting. With Daniel going home, we're now down to 12 tribe members, but the balance of this season is something I really don't know if I've seen before. I'm sure it's happened before, but it's interesting. 12 people left, 3 tribes with 4 people on each tribe. I think there's, of the 12 people, I think there's 6 men, there's 6 women. I think there are 4 Caucasians in there, 4 African Americans, 4 minority, non person of colors. So you got a lot of mix, which is kind of interesting. And everyone is playing the game for themselves, playing to win. It's what I like to see. So now, once again, I think CBS has done a fantastic job with casting this season. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. I enjoy the individuals who were picked, and I'm enjoying the way the game has been played out so far. But it all changes this evening. So again, we've got the 12 people left. And we've got after tribal, the repercussions about that. And while that's taking place, I guess it's the next day, but over at Ica team, the blue team, still can't get these tribe names necessarily remember all the time, but the blue team, we've got Tori. She's worried. Tori's had issues within her tribe. Seems like from day one when she got caught looking for the idols. But Tori is really worried, a little sketched out with Roxroy. She knows that he went over to the island last time, that he may or may not have picked up an advantage, and he's telling her, saying, "Look, I didn't risk my vote. I wasn't going to do it, but she wants details. He's refusing to give her details. I am with Roxroy. I say it all the time. Information is gold. I wouldn't be giving her a lot of details either, but she can't let it lie. She's becoming a little bit irritating to Roxroy. Not a good move. I truly think once it becomes obvious that he doesn't want to share the details with Tori, she's better off just moving on, doing something else. But the reality, in this tribe, Roxroy and Tori have been at odds for a long time. Don't expect that to change anytime soon. We know there's something coming up with the tribe, merge, swaps, whatever, so it's probably not going to come into play. But if this tribe goes to tribal council again, it's Tori versus Roxroy to see who goes home, right? So they're certainly still kind of sniping at each other a little bit, and Tori's nervous. I think she just needs to chill a little bit at this point in time. I really think she's digging herself a bit of a hole by going on and on, continuing to question him about what's going on. So with that being said, we talk about twists this evening, and we had a big one, not a new one, because we saw it last season. Jeff tells us again, says, look, the Survivor 42 players didn't get a chance to see season 41. They were already out playing the game. So all of you viewers, you know what's getting ready to happen. They don't. And here's how it's going to play out. I like that. I kind of like feeling like we're in on a little secret with Jeff, and he's presenting it to us before the tribe finds that stuff. But he does mention that we're basically going to have another situation, just like we did back in season 41, of one person getting the chance to change the whole game up. Remember last season, it was Erica with the hourglass. She broke the hourglass, so the people who had immunity lost immunity, and vice versa, and she changed the game all around. And she won as a result. It's a pretty big power that this person has. So Jeff tells us that, yeah, we're going to do that again, another hourglass challenge. But he says there are 3 changes that we've made, which is going to make this a little interesting and maybe make a little difference in the decisions that are made going into this twist. And he mentions to us, first of all, whichever tribe, because what we're going to have is these 3 tribes combined into 2 tribes, random draw of rocks. That we'll get into that. But the winning team doesn't just get some fish or a lot of rice or fruit or whatever they got last time. This time, they get Applebee's. Maybe get some Oreo shakes. Yeah, they get some Applebee's food. Just as an FYI, there's no Applebee's in Fiji. So they had to deliver that food from a long way away. But the winning team gets Applebee's, which is a heck of a reward. 2, the tribe is going to be told that whoever is left behind, the odd man out who gets sent off to the island for a couple of days on their own, like Erica last season, whoever that is, they're going to be told ahead of time that power person is going to have a huge power that has the ability to change the game. Remember last season, they didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't have a clue. So now they know that there's a big risk sending someone over to get that power. And the third twist, the third change from last season, I really like seeing this, is that the winning tribe, if they don't want to give this big game power, whatever it may be, to whoever the odd man out is, one of the people from that winning tribe can volunteer to go over to the island instead and gain that power. But if they do that, okay, here's the other thing. In addition to Applebee's, I lead with Applebee's, but really the big thing is that whichever team wins gets immunity also. Yeah, that's probably more important than Applebee's, right? Yeah, you would think so. So, but if someone doesn't trust that odd man out with the power, one of the people on the winning team can give up their Applebee's, give up their immunity in exchange for going over to the island and getting the power themselves. So it gives everyone a lot more to think about, right? Before all these decisions are going to be made. I like it. I like the changes. It adds a little bit more, I don't know. People know the value, the weight to some degree of sending this person to the island and everything else. So yeah, I like the changes on it. I love the tweaks they made. So before we actually have the competition, we got to have the tribal shakeup. Jeff says you have to drop your buffs. And someone says, are we merging? He says, yeah, maybe not quite. He explains to them basically the same thing we saw last season, that they're going to be combined instead of 2 teams of 6 people, because we got 12. Instead, you're going to have 2 teams of 5 people. It's all drawing rocks, so you'll draw orange or blue, I think. I don't know. Orange. We'll get into the 2 different colored rocks, but 2 people are going to draw gray rocks, not black. Black is bad. Gray could be. 2 people are going to draw gray rocks, and what that means is that they don't get to compete in the challenge. They just have to sit and watch, and one of them both of them are going to have their fate somewhat decided by the winning tribe. That's tough. It's got to be tough when you know that the game's on the line. Your game could be on the line, and you can't do anything except there and watch the other people compete. For all these type A personalities, it's got to be the worst thing in the world. Except for Daniel, who spent way too much time over the past few weeks sitting out of challenges because of injuries, and he paid the price. You always want to compete on these challenges, I think personally. But anyway, so there you go. So we're going to have 2 people sitting aside. We're going to have 2 teams of 5 each. The winning team, again, they win the merge buff, they win immunity at the next tribal council, and they win the Applebee's food, all kinds of fancy food. And so they've got that. The losing team, they don't have anything. They're going to be competing for immunity at the next immunity challenge. And so there's a lot on the line for this particular challenge. I mentioned they draw the rocks. So not because we got so much going on, I'm not going to go into who is on each of the 2 teams, but the big question, who draws the gray rocks? Now, I was sitting there thinking, if it was a perfect world, who would I not necessarily want, but who would be the most interesting to see draw the gray rocks? And I kind of thought, well, Jonathan, because he dominates competition so much, it'd be interesting to see if he had to sit out a challenge and watch everyone else compete without his contributions. That would be interesting. And then Mike was another person that, just because he's so hardcore and wants to play the game so much, having him sit out and potentially have the winning tribe have to pick between the 2 of them would have been an interesting conundrum. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But just thinking to make it a little bit more chaotic. It's not what happens. So who draws the 2 gray rocks? Roxroy and Lindsay. Yeah, which is interesting. Let's see what happens with that. Roxroy I feel like he's been a little bit distant from the rest of his tribe. He's a little bit older than the rest of his tribe and a little bit more distant. This probably isn't going to help him any at all. But again, there's a big power to be had by someone. So we've got the 2 of them sitting out, watching everyone else compete. Now, I know, so they show during the competition, the 2 of them sitting on a bench. We know there's no kind of immunity idol or twist or anything else over at that bench. But if I'm watching any competition, I'm crawling all around. I'm looking under the benches. I'm looking behind me. I'm looking everywhere to see if there's some kind of little hidden scroll or something. We don't get that this year. You know what else we haven't gotten this season, which we had last season, was that little game within a game, the little symbols and puzzles that we as a viewer could figure out. They got rid of that, and I kind of missed it from last year. But now they're sitting there watching the other 2 teams compete. And so what's the competition going to be? Well, it's I had my notes somewhere. Basically, the 2 tribes have to go dig out a huge earth ball looking thing. It looks like it weighs a ton. They have to dig out this ball, roll it over a couple of obstacles, stop it every few feet, have someone hop up on top of the ball so they can untie some keys that are hanging from a string. Once they've got those all untied, they then roll the ball, use it to climb up to the first level of a tower. Once everyone on the team's on the first level, then they have to just go up a ramp to the second level. At that point, they can unlock, I think it was a 75-piece puzzle, a huge puzzle. And then 2 people try to solve the puzzle. And of course, once the puzzle's solved, that team has won immunity, safety, Applebee's, everything that comes along with it. So a lot of rewards on the line. Probst starts them off. And of course, the team with Jonathan immediately gets the ball rolling first. And Jonathan, at one point, he's just the only one person behind the ball. He doesn't get it pushed loose, but he certainly gets a little movement just by himself. And we see him pushing the ball, stopping the ball. Pretty much, it's just a Jonathan show yet again. Someone even calls him Goliath at one point in time. But here's the thing. If I'm Jonathan, I'm probably getting a little bit irritated at Jeff Probst, who throughout this challenge has said, Jonathan leading the way, Jonathan grabbing his teammates, Jonathan lifting so-and-so. Jeff's impressed with Jonathan, as am I, as a lot of people I'm sure are. But I feel like Probst is doing nothing but putting an even bigger target on Jonathan's back by continuing to reference him during these challenges. But again, their team takes off and gets way ahead of the other team. A lot of it is due to Jonathan itself. He's absolutely, literally sometimes carrying his teammates and have a big lead. On the other hand, the other team, blue team, I think, Drea, or not just Drea, the other team, they get the ball eventually to the first part of the ramp. Everyone gets up on the first level. Mike is trying to help Drea up. She just can't get up that ball. It's hard. It's a big 8-foot ball that she has to jump up, try to grab him. She's gassed. It gets to the point where she can't even try to make an effort anymore to get on the ball. I don't blame her at all. I'd be laying over calling for the medics at some point. It's not an easy competition. But eventually Romeo has to jump back down onto the ground level, help get Drea up. She crawls up on top of him, gets up on the ball. At that point, he's able to, with Mike's help, get up to the top level. And eventually they make it up to the top. They start working on their puzzle as well. But the other team has a huge lead. And the other team, it's Lydia and Marianne are the two solving the puzzle for the orange team, the yellow team. I can't remember now, but yeah, they've got that. At one point, we see Jonathan kind of leaning over. Only two people can touch the puzzle, solve the puzzle. But we see Jonathan leaning over saying, hey, flip all the pieces over so you can see what they look like and all that. And Marianne kind of gives them we're okay. We're all right. And she says at one point, she says, look, we got time. We're good. Just settle in. We're okay. We've got time. As soon as I hear that, I start thinking, all right, Survivor's good. The editor's not at foreshadowing. They have such a lead. But with Marianne saying this, could it truly be that the other tribe is going to catch up and win this thing? And if so, Jonathan's not going to take well that Marianne didn't really take it seriously enough. It could create issues if that's the case. But we as viewers know that just because you win doesn't really mean that you're safe this week, or just because you lose doesn't mean that you may not gain safety as well. But I thought with foreshadowing going on that Marianne may be setting herself up. Jonathan already has talked before about how he gets a little tired sometimes of Marianne, maybe, even though they're on the same tribe, that maybe he gets a little tired of her chattering a little bit more than maybe he's used to. And I just feel like the editors maybe are building a little bit of this conflict up. So we'll see if it goes anywhere as we go forward with this episode and maybe future episodes as well. But eventually, with that foreshadowing, I'm getting a little bit nervous about that side. Nah, it doesn't matter. They had such a big lead. They still solved this puzzle way ahead of the blue tribe. So Jonathan, Lydia, Marianne, Romeo, Is that it? I think that's the 5. They've won the competition. We've got Mike and Drea and Romeo. I think I said the other tribe, but Romeo's on this side. Have lost it. I can't remember who I'm. Chanel as well, and so they've lost their they've lost it, and unfortunately, they're going to have to fight for immunity, and someone from this tribe is going to be going home at tribal, or so they think. Let's find out if that truly happens or not. So at this point, Jeff says, "All right, now you got some decisions to make. First of all, there's 2 people, Lindsay and Rockroy, who set out this challenge. Winning tribe, y'all have to pick one of them to come over to your tribe. It's just as though they competed with you. They get immunity. They get the Applebee's meal. Everything's good for this person. The other person is getting sent off to this island, spending 2 days alone, but they will get a power that could potentially change the game." So we see the Orange tribe talking a little bit about what they want to do. And eventually they decide that they want to bring Lindsay into the tribe instead of Roxroy. Was that really Tori? I think I didn't mention Tori was on the winning tribe as well. With Tori on that side, was there ever any real doubt that she wasn't going to fight to bring in Lindsay instead of trying to bring in Roxroy and have him on the same tribe as her? They don't necessarily like each other. They don't want to work with each other. So of course, Lindsay, and I think we hear a little whisper and say, I don't trust him. We can't get Roxroy. Hey, I think it was a done deal, because I don't know that anyone else on the winning team wanted to put themselves out there enough, arguing to bring in any certain person, Lindsay over Roxroy, Roxroy over Lindsay. Roxroy, I don't think really has such huge supporters on any of the tribes that he had anyone kind of championing his cause. And so with Tori arguing against it, Lindsay comes over. They give the excuse of Lindsay looks like she really needs to eat. She looks like she's starving, and nothing personal. We got to get Lindsay in. And that's not what it is. They didn't trust Roxroy. They listened to Tori as well. And I think Roxroy understands as well. He talks a little bit later, says, yeah, we all got to eat. But I think he knows that it was a little bit personal. But you know what? He can't feel too bad about it, knowing that he potentially has this huge power as well. It's very much a double-edged sword at this point in time, right? So because they brought Lindsay over, Roxroy is the one who's going to spend the next 2 days over on the island. No clue what's going on. All he knows is he's going to get a nice little power when he gets done. And we know what that power is. And sure enough, he gets there. There's an hourglass there and a mallet, and he's going to get the option of either breaking that hourglass, flipping the winning team and the losing team, or keeping it the same, just like last season. And just like last season, we know what he's going to do. I don't care how much they try to spin it that maybe there's alternatives and everything else. If you've got a situation where you can flip things around and be the person with immunity, then it's a done deal. I think it's got to be a done deal, right? Especially with Tori on the other side with safety, and Roxroy knowing that if he breaks this hourglass now, not only is he safe, but now Tori is not safe. Yeah, I think it's a done deal. Jeff comes over and has a little discussion, and we see Roxroy saying, maybe it's not worth breaking the hourglass, because if I don't break it, then the people who had immunity are going to be grateful to me for protecting their immunity, and maybe they'll be more willing to protect me. Nah, I don't buy any of it. I think that's just editing. You got to break the hourglass at this point in time. 100 times you got to break it. So, it is what it is. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you're on the winning tribe, would you be willing to sacrifice yourself and go over to the island, give up your immunity, go over to the island just to get this crazy power if given the chance? Because any one of those 5 could have volunteered themselves, and I have a feeling, I think the other 4 on that tribe would have said, yeah, if you want to do it, go do it. Would you as a viewer, or you as a competitor, would you do it? I was thinking about this while I was watching the episode, and I'm a big proponent in the first part of the game, trying to lay low as much as possible. Make sure there's other targets bigger than yourself. But at this point in time, when there's so much being made about having a power, I kind of think that maybe I would have done it with the anticipation, or maybe with a little bit of commitment from the other 4 of, hey, look, I'm going to go get the power. I'm going to use it to protect all of us. But in exchange, you got to agree that you take care of me if I'm still susceptible or whatever because it's power, right? Seems like you could have maybe struck a little bit of a deal where you could have felt safe and at the same time still got the power. And you can say it's for the tribe, but in reality, you get a power that's all for your lonesome self, and kind of lonesome. You spend 2 days alone. So I think if I was in that position, of course, it's easy to say, but I think I would have maybe gone ahead and given up the immunity to go get that power. But it depends on the situation as well. Tori, I don't think there's any chance she would ever do it, because she didn't feel like anyone from her original tribe was going to go out of their way to protect her. The other 2 tribes, she's just fodder for them. So I'm sure she felt threatened. She was just feeling safe that she had protection. But some of the other people, I don't know. It's something to think about. We'll never know. But no one does. It doesn't matter. They gave it to Roxroy instead, and now Roxroy is going to contain all of power and have to make his decision. And sure enough, yeah, he breaks the hourglass. There again, I don't think there was as much discussion to be had as they tried to make it out. So Roxroy is showing back up at camp. Showing up at the immunity challenge. So let's see. Let's talk about, I may be skipping ahead just a little bit. They send Roxroy to the island, which means he'll flip the hourglass, which in turn means that Lindsay, Lydia, Tori, Jonathan, Marianne, and Hai, who all are on the winning tribe who have immunity. They're going to lose their immunity. One of those 6 is going to be going home this week. Isn't that amazing? That's incredible. So we've got that. We see the winning tribe chowing down at Applebee's, not realizing that their fate is about to be flipped completely upside down. We haven't seen this again this season. I talked about looking around the benches and everything. They're all sitting there eating their food. I'd be looking at those plates. I'd be looking under every meal they brought to me, every little item, everything else. They don't do it. Maybe they do it and the editing just didn't show up, but I'd be looking everywhere for those idols and everything. But they enjoy their Applebee's very much so. And we do have, it's interesting. We talk about Tori and Roxroy not necessarily getting along. We've got Tori throwing Roxroy under the bus and making it pretty clear that not just Roxroy, but her whole tribe, she's more than happy to abandon them first chance she gets and jump on board with someone else that's creating another alliance. I'm not surprised at all, but she makes it pretty clear that she's willing to do that. Now, the other thing that I thought was very interesting from the losing tribe, we've got Drea talking about this big power that Roxroy is going to have. And she actually guesses. She says, hey, what if he gets some kind of power to flip everything? So those of us who think we're in danger suddenly get safety, and the other side is up at tribal council. She pinned it. I mean, she got it. She called it completely. That's pretty good. That's pretty good on Dre's part. She understands the game and she understands how some of these twists work. So she's called it. She's suggesting exactly what is going to actually happen. And when it's announced later, right before the challenge and everything, you see the look on her face. She's amazed that it's just what she said. So we've got that. But Drea, again, she understands the game. Just because she doesn't know exactly what the power is, she's not waiting around to find out. She's on the losing team right now. She's potentially going to tribal council. She's trying to work some deals. She and Mike, who are both on the losing side, are talking. They're plotting together. They're saying, look, we both have idols. We've got to work to save each other. If we protect each other's backs, we should be pretty good. And there's actually a mention of trying to get, I think Drea says, I've got Romeo, I've got Roxroy. I'm a little surprised, but she said, I got Romeo, I got Roxroy. Mike's saying, I got Lydia, I got Hai. That's 6 people. That's a strong team. It's a pretty strong team if those 6 want to get into an alliance. But the reality is that Hai and Lydia are on the other team, so they're not at risk tonight, but certainly they still have their votes. So they're talking about working to protect each other as much as they can. Now, if Mike and Drea are safe, who's going home on this team, assuming the hourglass didn't broke? I think it would be Chanel and Omar would be the ones really in danger this week if Roxroy leaves the hourglass alone. He's not doing it. He breaks the hourglass. So we've got that. But as part of the conversation as well, we also have Drea and Mike warning each other about Tori and Chanel. And, Mike's saying, look, whatever you do, you can't trust Chanel. Don't give her a lot of information. Tori's saying same stuff, or Drea's saying same thing. You don't trust Tori. And we haven't been able to trust her from day one. It's interesting. I think some seasons you see tribes very tight and saying, don't give information out to the other people. We've got to stay strong with each other. Not so much this time. This time we've got every tribe seems like they're trying to throw like one person from their tribe under the bus. Is that just a sacrificial lamb that they're giving up to let the other tribes know that we aren't that tight? Don't worry about us being a strong team. Here's your little target from our tribe, just to prove how dysfunctional we may be. It seems like there's a little bit of that. Now, truly, Mike doesn't trust Chanel. Truly, Dre doesn't trust Tori. So it's not just strategy, but that they're so willing to throw up those targets at this point in the game. I think that may be a little strategy to it. But it was interesting listening to those conversations. So back to the hourglass twist. And again, I feel like I kind of already spoiled it. Not that it was a surprise, but I like the twist this time. I didn't like it last season where they didn't realize how much power came with it. But you know what? Probst said whoever you send off is going to have this huge power that can change everything. They were warned and they had options. So as long as there's some lead up to it and they have some hints about what's going to happen, I'm a little bit better with it this season. But it is a huge power, as evidenced by Erica winning last season, in fact. So what else do we have going on? 2 hours, so much. Our first, real quick, don't forget, keep in the back of your minds, day one, Lindsay, Drea, and Hai all were just happened to be the random people from each tribe that ran down the beach that received the three-way, or received the amulet of power. Remember, that's the thing. If all three of them play it, they get to get an extra vote. I think if 2 of them play it, the other person's gone, they get to steal vote. If only one person's left, it's the amulet. It becomes a full-blown immunity idol. Remember, those 3 have this power. They're now together, close to it. We're right there at the merge. And so now the question becomes, do they betray each other? With fewer amulets, the amulets left have more power. So do they betray each other? Hai's a little bit worried about that. He mentions, I just don't trust these 2 ladies, that they may not try to boot me because of that. But they can either betray each other or they could work together. Yeah, these amulets don't have as much power, but it gives them an incentive, a reason to maybe work together to protect each other so that they all have this shared secret, this shared power that they can utilize. We'll see how it works. They mention during the episode, let's all work together. It's much better if we do that than go after each other. Well, yeah, that's easy to say. When push comes to shove, we'll see if that's still the case. We'll see. We've also got everyone's out there playing the social game now that they're together. Remember, we've seen all these tribe mates every episode so far. They are on different beaches. They haven't necessarily gotten to know each other yet. These are unknown. So there's a lot of time that this episode spent watching everyone trying to bond, play their social game with one another, throw a few people under the bus, but even more than that, try to create some bonds with these strangers. And we've got Mike and Jonathan really bonding together. And I think this is a true bond. I think these guys are going to work pretty well together. They talk about that, yeah, we're the 2 big blockheads. We're the 2 big dummies that no one ever thinks there's anything going on under here. We get each other. I think it's smart of Mike. I think it's real smart of Mike to align with the guy who is obviously the biggest physical threat on the island right now, because if there's people who want to go after the physical threat, they'll go after Jonathan before they go after Mike. But at the same time, now Mike has someone who is good at competitions who very well can help protect him. So I think the bond is real, but I also think it's good gameplay from Mike's standpoint to align with Jonathan the way he has. We've got some other conversations going on. We've got Omar talking to Hai and Romeo. So the guy from each of the 3 tribes. And they're talking about the fact, now, you forget that the people on this island don't have all information that we have. They're talking to each other, and Omar realizes that at the last tribal council, Chanel didn't have a vote. If she didn't have the vote, it's because she risked her vote and lost it. And Omar knows that he also risked his vote, but he hadn't been to tribal council since that happened. So he didn't know up until this point in time whether he had an extra vote or he lost his vote. Well, when he finds out Chanel lost her vote, he knows that means that he too lost his vote. So he's feeling a little bit under the gun at that point in time, because he's, again, Omar's on the losing side for now. And now he doesn't have a vote either. So not a good situation for Omar, now knowing that he's lost his vote at the next tribal council. But even more than that, Omar's upset that Chanel didn't tell him that she had lost her vote. And I think this was a lost opportunity for Chanel, because when they had worked together, they'd walked up the top of the mountain together. And Omar even says, kind of thought I could trust her and everything else. And of course, Mike saying, yeah, no, you can't trust her at all. But if Chanel, as soon as she'd seen Omar, said, hey, just so you know, I don't have my vote, so you don't either. I don't want you to be blindsided. I think she could have given them a heads up that would have allowed the 2 of them to work together. But now, because she didn't, Omar is thinking he can't trust her either. It feeds right into what Mike's saying. You can't trust Chanel. And Omar's believing it after she didn't give him that little bit of information. But yeah, Omar's a little bit worried that he doesn't have a vote as a result of that. Now, let's talk about the big alliance. Ugh, reality TV. I hate big alliances. It brings up bad memories from my days at the Big Brother house. Even worse when Hai proposes an alliance of 8 people. Yeah, I don't like alliances of 8 people. At least they didn't call it Grateful Eight or anything horrible like that. But Hai proposes an alliance of 8 people. It's basically he and Lydia from their tribe. He, Lydia, and Mike from their tribe. Then Drea and Roxroy from the other tribe, and then finally Lindsay and Omar and Jonathan from the third tribe. Eight people, 3 from one tribe, 3 from another, 2 from the final tribe, which basically is leaving Marianne, Chanel, Tori, and Romeo on the outs. I was a little bit surprised that Drea mentioned Roxroy and not Romeo as the third member from their tribe to be in this alliance, but it didn't happen. Now, maybe part of it is because she knows Roxroy is over there getting some big power, and she wants to make sure that they have someone in their alliance that has that power. That could be part of the thinking. I'm not sure. But an alliance of 8 people, everyone seems pretty tight with it. It's a good alliance. I just think 8 people is too many. 8 out of 12 just seems like a few too many folks for an alliance. It's not going to last long at all. But sometimes you don't need to have these things last for more than just a vote or two. Get you past the first little bit of uncertainty. So we've got that alliance of 8. And we have, once again, this alliance is pretty much Mike's throwing Chanel under the bus again. Drea's throwing Tori under the bus again. And Jonathan mentions Marianne, says, yeah, it's not that she's done anything. It's just she hadn't really helped either. And so each of the tribes is thrown out again, that one person from their tribe that they either feel can't be trusted or they're okay going home. And later we have Jonathan saying, yeah, I kind of threw her name out there just so that they don't know that the 4 of us are as tight as we truly are. But if it comes down to it, I also think Jonathan, of the remainder of his previous tribe, Marianne would be the one he'd get rid of first. I like Marianne. I'm not ready to see her go just yet, but I understand what he's saying. So with that being said, it sounds like either Chanel or Tori could easily be the target to go home this week, depending upon what Roxroy does. And knowing that Roxroy's broken the hourglass, it's not looking good for Tori. Suddenly she is the team with immunity who's getting ready to lose it, and she's in a tight position because of that. So again, we've got Probst visiting Roxroy saying, what are you going to do? This, that. Roxroy then says, yeah, I think I'm going to break the hourglass. And he does that, which now means that Jonathan, Marianne, Hai, Tori, Lindsay, and Lydia are at risk. Now, Tori is not happy. She's a little chapped at Roxroy, saying, look, I only sent you to that island because I knew you were going to get this big power, and I thought you'd use that big power to protect us. You're kind of screwing me over after I tried to help you out. What kind of friend are you? Well, they're not friends. And I don't know. I get it from a purely selfish personal standpoint that she's wishing that he hadn't made that decision. But if someone stands in front of me and says, look, I can either not break the hourglass and be at risk this week, or I can break it and stay safe, I'm not going to be too upset because I'm going to get it. I'm going to understand it completely. Not so much Tori. She's a little chapped at what's happening. And I'm thinking at this point in time, the last thing you want to do now that you know you're on the losing side, that there's only 6 people going home and you're one of those 6. The last thing I want to do is say anything that's going to create any bit of animosity with anyone else on that island at that point in time. I just want to be quiet until I get chances to go off and start whispering and campaigning to people. Tori didn't do that. She kind of calls out Roxroy, and Roxroy says something about, you knew when you sent me I was going to stay loyal, or I don't know, whatever. We knew he was going to break it. But she's not real happy with him. And with good understanding. I think she understands that she's in a very precarious position. So all that being said, immunity challenge. We now know that here's the other thing. These 6 people went to this immunity challenge thinking that they weren't even going to participate, that they were just going to watch. It was all about who they're going to vote for. They loaded up on Applebee's. They probably feeling kind of full and a little tired and kick back and let's just enjoy the afternoon. suddenly each and every one of them is fighting for their life. So the immunity challenge, we've seen it before. I think we even saw it last season. Basically, a little balancing ramp. You have to walk out and use a rope to keep it balanced. Walk out, set up 7 blocks, one on top of the other. Each block has a letter, spells immunity. So one at a time, you have to walk out, set that block on the ramp, walk your way back while holding the rope to keep the pedestal balanced. Go back to the next block, back and forth, back and forth. And if your blocks topple, you got to start all over again. It's just all about patience, doing everything nice and slow, and trying to be the first one with your blocks stacked and getting back to the platform and finishing up. And again, this is a must-win situation for Tori. And she does it. Tori wins this competition. Can't remember who. I think there are a lot of, Jonathan was doing well. Marianne was doing well. At the end, though, Tori's won the competition. I love it. Whether I'm cheering for or against a player or somewhere in between, I'm always going to cheer for the underdog. And I always love seeing a player win when their back is against the wall. And that was very much a situation for Tori. So props to Tori for doing what has to be done. She's going to survive another week. And that puts a lot of pressure. That means there's only 5 people left who can get sent home this evening. And there's not an easy, a strong target. We've got some people with some definite ideas, and we're going to talk about that, but not as cut dried as it would have been if Tori herself had been the one that was going home. So it's very interesting. So who's going to be the target? Marianne, maybe, or is now the time to send home Superman Jonathan? Now that they're moving the individual immunity challenge, you have to do it at some point in time. So there's certainly, I guess you could call it a target-rich environment. There's certainly a lot of people that could go home at this point in time, and it all depends on the other players that are on the island, who's pushing for who. And we've got that. Romeo is leading the charge to get out Jonathan. It's interesting because Romeo he has a little talk. He says, these big old alpha muscular guys and everything, that's not me. I'm ready to get those guys out of here. We got to get Jonathan out. So Romeo is certainly leading the charge to get Jonathan out. And so we've got that. Now, my first thought as soon as this happened is I think Marianne may be in a tough position. We already talked about the fact that Tori's name got thrown under the bus when this Alliance of 8 was talking. Marianne was thrown out there by Jonathan. I don't know that Jonathan would go out of his way to protect Marianne. And she's so friendly, but does she have the strategic ability, the cutthroat ability, the ability to go out and campaign and pitch and make promises and everything in order to stay around? We just haven't seen that much from Marianne, which makes it a little bit nervous for her time left in the game. I think she could be at risk this evening. But we've got a couple of different people pushing different directions. We do have Lindsay pushing to get at Marianne. So her name is certainly being mentioned by quite a few people. It gets down to this. Is this Alliance of 8 people they just formed like 24 hours ago or less. Is it going to stick around? If so, it seems like Marianne would be the target to go home because she's not part of that 8. But again, I think an Alliance of 8 is a lot of people to be trying to come together with a consensus decision. Now we've got Omar talking to Lydia, who are both part of this Alliance of 8. And Lydia saying, look, I'm okay getting rid of Jonathan. He wasn't on my original tribe. And yeah, I know he's part of the 8, but if they want to get rid of him, I'm okay with it. And that's all that Omar needs. Omar wants to protect his original tribe, which is himself and Lindsay and Marianne, and who am I leaving out? I don't know, his 4. He wants to protect them, and that's got it right? Marianne, Jonathan, Omar, and Lindsay. Yeah, there you go. So he's using this to his advantage. Now that Lydia said, hey, I'm okay getting rid of Jonathan if we want to, he's immediately saying, all right, guys, she's already willing to break up the 8. And, I think I think he tells, at one point he approaches High. Now, I'm not sure I agree with this, but he approaches High and says, look, it's got to be either Lydia or it's got to be Marianne. And we know, or we think that Marianne's got an idol that she very well may play it. And if she does, then suddenly it's got to be one of the 8 that's gone. So I think instead We just have to get Lydia out. All right, I understand the thinking a little bit, but I'm not sure Omar realized just how tight Lydia and Hai were, because immediately after he says that, Hai says, yeah, no, not to Omar, but to the camera. He tells us, he says, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I already drew rocks to protect Lydia. I'm going to do whatever it takes to save her now. So now I've got to try to go after Marianne to try to save Lydia. So we got different camps campaigning for different people. There's so many moving parts. They're new. We don't have the relationships developed, which makes it fun to watch, but a little bit tough to predict what's going to be going on with the tribal council itself. We do get to the tribal council. All 12 people are here. What a big group. I've kind of missed the tribal councils with so many people. I've heard that these tribal councils don't just last for the 15 minutes we see or so, that they go on for hours and hours. I can only imagine when you got 12 people sitting in front of that campfire, that Jeff probably doesn't ask every single one of them all kinds of questions. Who knows how long they spent there going back and forth. But again, with basically 3 names, 4 names, maybe different names being thrown out there, makes it a little bit tough to figure out just how this thing's going to go. But that's all right. That's part of the fun of watching Survivor. Now, a couple of questions as we go into the vote itself. Marianne has an extra vote, and she has an idol. Is she confident, comfortable enough with her position in the game, with people willing to protect her, that she's going to hold on to those advantages, or is she going to burn through one or both of them in order to protect herself? Omar, talking about a lucky guy. Omar thought he was at risk this week to go home, and he didn't have a vote. We still didn't have a vote, but at least it's on a tribal council where he's 100% completely safe. Got a little lucky this time. So congratulations to you, Omar. But it comes down to the voting itself. Marianne does not use her extra vote. She does not use her idol either. No one plays the shot in the dark. I guess the shot in the dark is still in play, right? I think it still is. We just aren't hearing that much right now. So we've got that. With 5 votes, well, let's talk about it. We get some votes for Jonathan. We get some votes for Lydia. We get some votes for Marianne. But with 5 votes cast, it's Lydia. Lydia sent out the door, which I think Lydia, I'm glad she came on the show. I feel like, based on some of the confessionals we saw, a bit of a self-discovery for Lydia. I think she probably develops all kinds of confidence and self-esteem after this show. And she played a good game. I just don't know that she necessarily was playing the same level of strategic play and planning, conspiring that some of the other people were. And I think she paid the price for it. Now, here's the big question. Lydia is gone. How does this affect Hai's game and his confidence? I think he may have mentioned at some point in the game of saying, this is where we see where the real winners are versus, people who aren't necessarily, good players, but not great players. He said, when times of stress come along, when we have these twists, these challenges and everything else, this is where you see the great players excel. How is Hai going to handle this? He has lost his strongest partner. He's kind of a free agent to some degree. He's lost Lydia. Does he continue to try to work with Mike at this point in time? Does he just go to whoever can offer him sanctuary for the next few votes? I don't know how Hai is going to pivot at this point in time, but it's going to be interesting to see how that works. The star of this 2-hour episode, I think, maybe is Omar. I mentioned that Omar, I really felt, was at a bit of a risk there for a little while. Well, all of a sudden, Omar, I think Marianne and Jonathan owe Omar a big round of thanks, because it seems like Omar really pulled the feet out of the fire and turned it into a victory. He was very intent on preserving his original tribe. He better make sure that Marianne and Jonathan understand just how much he was the person behind a lot of that moves, because I think either one of them could have gone home if it wasn't for the work of Omar. So he should have developed some true allies, some true loyalties as part of this. I think him being forced to talk to all these other tribe mates in order to save those 2 has also led to maybe him developing some other relationships with other people on other tribes. So I think Omar really improved his position a lot. I love watching Omar play the game as well. I think he did well this episode, really strengthened his position. And again, Lydia, hated to see her go. I'm sure she learned a lot about herself, but it probably was time. I'm okay with that. I didn't want to see Marianne go. I didn't want to see Jonathan go. I think they got a lot more game to play. So of the 3 targets, Lydia, I hate to see you go as well, but it's part of the game. So Lydia's gone. We're told that everyone else that's left is going to be part of jury. So we're into that last bit, and they're now merged. So from this point forward, it's an individual game. If I'm Jonathan, I'm sweating bullets. I think Jonathan may have to do a little bit like Mike did from a few years ago, where he basically, and Ben as well. We've had people in the past who were considered somewhat strong threats that really had to just almost win out the last half of the season in order to make it to the end and survive. And I feel like Jonathan may be in a similar situation. Every week there's going to be talk about sending him out the door if he hadn't won immunity. So here comes the tough part for Jonathan play the game. But we also have such great strategic players this season. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying watching everyone. And I'm looking forward to next week as well and see some of the repercussions. Again, this alliance of 8, and no way it lasts. And now I guess it's not an alliance of 8, it's an alliance of 7, right? Now that Lydia's gone. I think alliance of 7 is still a bit strong for 11 people. So we'll see what happens next week. But until then, guys, enjoy Survivor. 2 hours, so much fun. I will see y'all next Wednesday. We'll talk about episode 7. Until then, cheers, my friends. SKD 143. Bye.